Many times we think that when we are on highways, we see accidents or we see some accident next plant, or sometimes even our systems failures and all that. So we think that we have learned a lesson. Do you think really when we are passing on the highway and we see that there was an accident, we learned a lesson? It is questionable. And this is what I am going to take 5 minutes to talk about. How do we learn? How do we learn? We learn from our own mistake. That means we have already committed a mistake. For example, as a child, when we put our hand on a fire, we learn a lesson that, okay, we should not be doing it again. So this is our lessons learned would avoid reoccurrence of the incident. If we are careful enough in future, if we follow the procedures, then we can avoid recurrence. But how did we learn? We learned from our own mistake. Now let's compare this to learning from others' mistake. Someone else has made mistake. Can we learn from that? And it's sometime it is to avoid occurrence at my place, in my system, because I have learned from someone else. For example, this kind of ruptured disc is not good for this fluid. For instance, this is a learning from someone else's mistake. We read we read a case study, some XYZ, maybe next plant or maybe another part of the world, and we learn from that we must avoid occurrence of use of this kind of ruptured disc at our location. So this avoids occurrence, not necessarily reoccurrence at our location. And the interesting thing about this is that this is free of cost, almost. Possibly we have watched a webinar, or we have read a book, or we have read a report somewhere, almost free of cost. That's the beauty of learning from other lesson. However, as I told, that passing and watching an accident happening somewhere on the highway does not make us learning from incidents. So, should we do the reading? We keep on reading books, periodicals, reports, case studies, watching incident videos, wonderful videos by Chemical Safety Board, attending seminars, trainings. Can we learn from them? Spreading messages in social media. No sooner an incident happens somewhere and immediately somebody posts on social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn. Keep talking about safety. We keep talking about it. So can we say that we have learned from XYZ incident? Possibly not. Possibly not. Because we have just read about it on TV. Every day we see we watch a news about some incident somewhere. And have we personally learned from that? Possibly no. It is not that easy. Like if we are passing through a library, if we are browsing the books or just passing through the library, we can have a PhD, we can have a learning only when we bring some change, without making a change in myself, in my system, in the environment, we cannot say that we have learned a lesson. So this is the first litmus test about have we learned? We need to ask, have we made a change? Have we made a change to our standard operating procedure? Have we made a change to our hardware? Have we done a re-PHA? Have we looked into our system once again when we have watched an incident? So we are talking about 5 elements of effective learning. First is get authentic information. In this era, when there is an information overload.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Let us go through the incident. I will keep my video off so that there will not be issue with my voice. So let us move through the incident. It happened on 24th of September 2020 at Hazira. Basically, it was a gas leak and fire at the Hazira facility, Surat. Actually, I worked nearby industry for 1 year, so I am very much familiar about the place. It was on 24th of September at night 3 a.m. So you can, there were many such news around about the incident. So let us talk about peer loss. Basically, whenever we are talking about loss, we are always used to use these peer term: people, environment, asset, and reputation. Basically, in incident, it was not arranged like this, but we tried to map it. People loss, what they mentioned, there is no injury or any fatality. That is good about. Environment loss, they mentioned about few damage to trees, but really it was a huge release and huge dense smoke. That all part was not mentioned. So here only mentioned about damage to a few trees. Asset damage, you can see from the photograph itself, huge asset damage, production loss, this, that. But as per report, they mentioned only 36-inch line, one of the condensate facility line, badly damaged and need replacement. Reputation, it becomes a news headline for all such news channel and newspaper here and there. One of the news headline, it talk about 30 million metric ton of cubic meter gas supply to the northwestern region was interrupted because of they shut down the plant and all. This is the real photograph of the facility. You can see the fire from a far distance. This is again real pictures from the incident report. So now let us check the CCTV footage. Basically, how the incident, it is the before incident, it was clear. Now you can see here, maybe this is the 36-inch line if you see my cursor, and then there was leakage started. I will talk according to the timeline later. So this is somewhere the location where leak started. Few more pictures like huge vapor cloud. Such pictures generally we do not see because it luckily it is available through CCTV camera. Otherwise, such pictures is really rare for us. Vapor cloud all around, and then fire. So altogether, everywhere there is a fire. So this is all about loss. And now let us speak something about plant and process, it is basically not of much interest because we are talking about incident, but really we need to get some information. So let us talk about plant and process. It is at one of the location, Surat Hazira. You can see from the Google, it is at coastal area. This is about plant picture before incident. Yes, basically they were receiving gas along with condensate, and there is a huge network of such gas. One of the most important aspect, there are two lines, 36-inch line which is around 230-kilometer long, and 42-inch line which is around 244-kilometer, coming to the Hazira plant, means coming to the plant for processing, where there it is processed gas in gas terminal. Gas terminal is nothing but kind of separation of gas with condensate. That line, 36 line and 42-inch lines were well designed for gas and means mixed flow gas and liquid. In gas terminal, it is separated through slug catcher, and then gas is routed through various cleaning units to further distribution. And similarly, condensate is processed and routed as a for local customer and other finished product. Our major, we will not talk about this GSU, GDU and all because it is not of our much of interest, but yes, something happened to this gas terminal. So let us go through this block diagram. I tried to prepare this block diagram based on the description available in investigation report. So here you can easily understand what is inside and outside. 36-inch line, there are two lines, 36-inch line and 42-inch lines coming to this gas terminal for separation. And this is one of the isolation, means there are two isolation valves for each line, and other isolation is available, that is called valve station. For 36-inch line, valve station was away 1.7 kilometer away from the facility. So it is offsite, and inside there is one valve. Why we are talking about this valve? Because it is one of the point of interest while discussion. And after this valve, there was connection for metering skid, 6-inch line, and particularly this flange was leaking. I mean, started leak and further fire. So this is the location where actual leak and fire happened. Again, it is based on my interpretation from the description, but more or less it is matching. So this is all about plant and processes. Let us go through the incident timeline. What happened, which time? At 2:15, one of the security guard observed noise as well as vapor cloud from the location, and he informed to main gate control room, LPG control, so various control rooms, and means they have the defined way of communication, so they communicated accordingly. Almost after 3 minutes, the same thing was reported by one more person, as well as it could be identified through CCTV. Around after 2 minutes, they have started more communication. So these all around now communicated. Around 3:04, one of the pressure control valve. This pressure control valve, again, I could not locate because it is not a 36-inch line valve. There is something which is controlling the pressure of downstream. So that valve was closed, but this valve is not an isolation valve for the particular gas line that we will be talking later. At almost by 3:08 hours, fire took place as per the CCTV footage guideline. By 3:11, one of the means they started more control, that control room, just a minute, that informed to stop the gas supply at 36 and 42-inch line. Basically, this line is again not a line, means these valves are offshore line, even not a valve station line, but other end valves. So they started closing, they started messaging and closing. Then at 3:30, closure of sectionalized valve. In between, they have, means basically there were vapor cloud, so they could not stop the immediate control, means immediate valves, 36-inch valve and 42-inch valve. So that is why they started controlling from other end. Now they have started closer these 36-inch and 42-inch line at that valve station, basically 1.7 kilometer away and 5.3 kilometer away. At 6 o'clock, fire was controlled, and at 7 o'clock, this particular MOV3, that is isolation valve, main isolation valve, inside the plant was closed, because after fire only they could assess the location and they could close the valve. So
this was a manual valve.
Yeah, this was rather, it was motorized operated, but remote access was not there. From control room, it was not operable. It is only operable by sight only. And 7:30, they declared all clear. Yes, so this is most interesting things, which is we can say we can learn from, we can start learning from this point: observation and finding by committee. So committee have categorized the observation with respect to various titles like facilities, safety, maintenance, that firefighting system, electrical maintenance, quality assurance, and all. So let us go one by one quickly, since we have limited time, so we may not go into the detail, but rather I have keep some important points, so we can definitely go through that points. So facility, based on that facility observation, they observed various things like a mismatch of drawing in P&ID versus available in field. Basically here what they mentioned, some of the PT and some of the delta T transformers were available in P&ID, but they could not locate in DCS. So actually it was not there, or how, where they disappeared, it is again an issue. Mismatch of time stamping, they wanted to check various DCS data for the same event, but there were mismatch of the same event from one panel to other panel. So again, it is a mismatch. MOVs, rightly told by Mr. Rutvik, MOV remote operation from control room was not available. Even hydrocarbon and H2 detectors were there, but detectors were connected only to the alarm panel, not for DCS, for any kind of history. So we can again we can think of design aspect of this initiation and all. No provision for auto shutdown of plant. This is highest kind of design deficiency, we can say. Not even a automatic shutdown or any automatic fire suppression system. Let us quickly go through. The next is with respect to safety. From safety, they have targeted a few audits like self-safety audits, internal audit, external audits, fire drills, incident reporting system, and emergency response system even. For self-safety audit, what they observed, the audit is done, but they were using checklist. but the checklist items were not covered. Many of the observations were not covered even. So there is no meaning of preparing checklist here.
And there
With
was
respect,
no specific checklist for the plant. It was
yes,
some very generic safety check.
yeah, it was generic. Great. With respect to internal audit, they could identify there were 2 audits in 2018 and 19, but there was no checklist. So again, how they will be doing audit, these are again question for them. External safety audit, the observation is there were 308 recommendation. It was done in 2018 and there were 308 observations. So from external audit itself we can understand what are the gaps, huge gap. And out of 290, means out of these 308, 296 observed, means observation recommendation were completed. But sometimes how we are completing, just completed, done without any further action sometimes. And even the balance, almost 12 observations, means it was still open even, and they have extended date for up to the April 2021. So these are some of the observation. Fire drills, uh, they were conducting fire drills and entering data in SAP, but again without any action, no recommendation, just date of conduct, that's it. With respect to incident investigation, they have some SAP notification system for reporting, and almost 79 incidents were reported. So now we can imagine incidents are keep happening, and while reporting, what committee found, there was no classification, means major, minor, or what kind of accident, what is near miss, that such definitions are not there. And that is the reason some of the minor fire or product leakage they identified, means they reported as near miss. So something is missing. And even this incident reporting is nowhere reviewed, no, even by operation or HSE or anybody else. Permit to work system was also having some issues. They do not categorize what is critical and what is not critical. And with respect to emergency response system, uh, they identified such scenarios, like heavy leak or gas leakage and heavy product leakage from pipeline or tank, but they did not mention anything about isolation. And that is what we can observe here. They were doing isolation, the leak started at 2:15 and they were doing isolation at 3:30. So huge gap. Very first step shall be, as we all know, very first step is to isolate the system, but they could not do, since their emergency response plan do not talk about. Another, with respect to firefighting system, what they observed, capacity was not sufficient. But again, that bases are not given why it is sufficient or what. Can you please mute somebody? Capacity test not conducted as per OISD, basically as per legal oil industry safety directorate. There is a legal kind of requirement, but they do not do capacity test, or even fuel consumption is not logged. Clear roles and responsibility not defined. How we can understand, like the maintenance and operation of pump, tanks, pipeline, hydrant monitored are carried out by various departments, like utilities, sometimes some of the parties by maintenance, sometimes other agencies, contractors. And how they are performing their roles and responsibilities not monitored, functioning also not
Because
monitored.
the actual firefighting operation was by CISF,
Yes.
which is an outside agency, and
So
ownership of the assets were with ONGC.
yeah. Even with CISF basically security staff. They how they are doing firefighting and all again it is a question, and they were reporting to fire. Means they were carried out such activity under guidance of fire chief, but they were reporting to uh, shift in charge instead of fire chief. So there is a mismanagement. There is no particular fire crew or something. With respect to maintenance, we can speak something about management of change not followed. They have mentioned one example for this particular FT that we were talking about. That FT was calibrated. Its calibration was changed. It was 16,000 water column. It was changed 16,000 to 2,500 without any management of change. After 6 months, again they changed the setting from 2,500 to 16,000. How? Why? Everything is not mentioned. So management of change totally not followed by this example. Critical job management not adequate, like say one of the example what they mentioned for the same FT on 18th of September, just a few days before the incident. One of the notification is generated, means one of the notification for maintenance was generated, and that particular there was a requirement of gasket, but that gasket was not available, so they procured from local market without any specification or without any quality control. Even they kept in service this particular meter only by operating pressure test. They just kept in service without any further hydro test or something, and even there was no SOP about calibration and putting in line, how to put in line such critical equipment. And after completion of job, even the notification is still open. They did not completed the notification. So permit to work system, work management system, critical job management system, we can say huge gap. SOP was not available. Ineffective maintenance. How it is ineffective? Because the same what we are talking about, that 6-inch line FT, the same FT was the gasket was replaced in November 2018, then again in February 2019, then again in 18th of September, just 6 days before the event. Nobody is checking why it requires the repetitive gasket replacement. So ineffective maintenance system, we can say, and poor maintenance management. How poor maintenance management? Because number of notifications were generated here. What they mentioned, 7,935 notifications were raised in a year, and 1,060 notifications were pending. And out of this 1,060 notification, 252 notifications were just raised before 3 months. So we can see here nobody is asking about the notification management, maintenance management, why it is pending, what you did, and even they are closing notifications sometimes without any detail. What they did, how they did, no need to enter, just they are clicking or maybe some system, they are closing the issue. Another, with respect to electrical, no tracking mechanism of overdue, similar way of, we can say, maintenance, no mechanism to check overdue. no mechanism to record reason for overdue, no unit identification. This is one of the interesting item because it is relevant to our incident. They have number of flame-proof electrical equipment like say lighting junction and all, and they do not give unique number to that, so that it is one of the, we can say, gap, that there is a chance of every time missing some item or every time repeating some item. So for preventive maintenance, it is a gap to, which means by if we do not have unit identification number. Inadequate electrical audit. After this incident, there were audit. Now again we can say they do not learn. After incident, they have electrical audit to check the electrical connections and other equipments, and they generated report which was just a generic report of 1 page, and they did not mention detail about anything. And particular the lamp, one of the lamp was they found damaged, and which was the cause of ignition source. uh, they did not mention about the particular this lamp. With respect to corrosion monitoring and maintenance, scheduled was not followed, non-availability of original drawings. There were many such issues, no procedure for selection of thickness survey. So again, there is a case that particular line was not, may not be checked because there is no procedure how to select the spot. And there are chances that one spot is being checked every time and some spots are not at all. No action or insufficient action on monitoring. Basically, if you say what they have mentioned, that in 2000, basically they have one of the schedule to do that monitoring by 4 years, but they did not follow. They did one of the survey in 2011 and next survey is 2017. So there is a gap, and in one of the survey they have identified various thickness loss, but they do not do anything. They did not do any action on such item. Or even one of the thickness survey reduction point, what they did, they applied coating, not even coating, it is just paint. Whether painting of pipe is sufficient as a corrective action for thickness reduction, again question. Some general observations they could identify: lack of proper design of control room. How it is, the control room, newly designed control room was blast resistance control room, but their doors were not blast proof. So how means it is improper design. Inadequate training and competency that we can easily identify, like CISF, security personnel are performing job of firefighters. Inadequate training. And even they have clearly mentioned that training with respect to safety, operation, control room handling, logbook writing, and what to do in case of emergency, not at all managed. People were not trained. What they have mentioned, they have some training program, 4-day training program for new recruiters. After that, no training. So whether it is sufficient, we can easily understand. And even the qualification of staff is not mentioned in HR as well as operation policy. So, and what they observed, one more thing with respect to training is last training, most of the staff attended the last training in 2018. After that, no training. So 3 years without training. MOC procedure developed in 2016 August. They developed procedure, but it was not rolled out. So without rolling out how the people will come to know about there is a procedure and we need to do as per the procedure. No proper shift handover changeover. People are writing log in just makeshift arrangement register. They were even not entering activities, even any event or any alarms, and handing takeover procedure is also not in place. So these were all the observation. Due to lack of time, we are just running through the observation. So now let us move to the what were the immediate cause and then root cause. Immediate cause of leak. Leak is what they observed. Leak is from this particular flange, because just before a few days there was maintenance on that, and without any hydro test, uh, it it was put in service, and majority of the pipeline majority of the bolts were what they found are broken, means damaged, uh, but specific leakage from pipeline due to corrosion and flange leak, they cannot ascertain. And another aspect is source of ignition is one of the disintegrated flame proof electrical lamp. What they observed may not be a part of the preventive maintenance program, because of lacking of unit identification number. Root causes, yes, what they mentioned as root cause, again, it is a point of discussion, and Mr. Ujjwal Ritik will focus more on the report. Failure of O-ring, and failure of basically that flange of metering gasket, use of non-standard O-ring, lack of control over material sourcing, because they are just doing some local purchasing and there is no any control over that. Inadequate preventive maintenance system that we already discussed in detail. Non-isolation and stoppage. So that is one of the issue. They have closed valve even at valve station at 3:30, and even after extinguishing fire, they could stop the leak at the local point, isolation point. So committee recommendation, here we will not talk much in detail, because what they did, whatever observation they could identify, they were giving line to line recommendation. Like for example, what they mentioned that let us provide all P&ID to be checked.
Okay, so it is, first of all, we much appreciate the efforts made by ONGC and particularly Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board, that they have instituted such process of independent inquiry. I mean, relatively independent inquiry, I should say. And report has been put in public domain. But one thing that strikes me is that intention of the report is not very clear. Here, let me point out that they are talking about that one of the intentions is so that this incident does not happen again. Now, they are not talking about where it should not happen. If we are not specific, I mean, it should not happen in that same plant, or it should not happen in similar plants, or in ONGC, or in oil and gas or hydrocarbon facilities across India, because they are having hundreds of such, facilities around India under Petroleum Regulatory Board. So, if that intention is not immediately clear, then to whom this report is meant, it is not pointed, and therefore who will learn from this is also questionable. But again, let me first compliment the whole process, the whole effort, that yes, they had the courage, they put an investigation and then published this report in public domain. Inquiry committee report and many such reports are available in the in public domain. If you can see my camera, this is what is this report about. So this report is available to you, or I'm not talking of just on social media, but on their website, it is available. So very much it is appreciated. Recommendations are limited to plant, but not for company or industry, because as I told, raised first issue, to whom this is directed, it is not very clear. So recommendations are mostly directed to the plant, and it becomes kind of the value of the recommendations, they become less. Many of the observation without addressing adequate evidences. I'm quite sure that investigation committee may have observed many more things. They had 4 days of investigation on site. They spent on site, so they must have collected a lot of evidences, and they are not talking about those evidences in the report. Now, possibly there may not be so much a big issue. However, I have a concern there. Concern is what? That if we are observing just like that without supporting evidences, we cannot challenge the evidences sometime, and again, learning value from such reports become less, because we don't know if this evidence was very correct or very too much to the point. Now, let me come to the bigger issue about root cause, technique followed, and identification of root causes. In fact, most of the root causes, just now Kanu, he explained to you, I cannot go back because of the paucity of time, but most of the root causes are actually not root causes. They are immediate causes. Now, if somebody says that how this jar broke, so somebody identifies and makes an investigation and may find out that because it fell down from the table. So this jar broke because it fell down from the table. Now, next question asked, why did it fall? Then the root cause is that because there is gravity. It cannot go up. Because of gravity, pull of gravity, it went down. Now, what's the point? What's the point in stopping my root cause identification that somebody pushed and it went down, and we stop at that? This is not root cause identification. This is just immediate causes, and if we keep acting on immediate cause, I think most of most of people who are aware of these techniques, that we cannot have a permanent solution. Possibly they should have gone beyond as to why there was so much of asset integrity failures in this whole facility. And a bigger question to ask is that is there a similar situation all across ONGC facilities, all across petroleum and natural gas facilities across the country, that they are in violent in violation of so many OISD requirements? And who was auditing, who was monitoring, why there was like this. They have to go beyond. And as we say, if even a simple 5 why technique could have given them a better value to the whole effort. But what we find here, in the name of technique, they have written that the three investigators, they did brainstorming. Now, just brainstorming cannot lead you to a good root cause analysis. And if the root cause analysis is not good, the solutions also cannot come. Lasting solutions may not be possible. They are completely silent about previous incidents that took place in that region, in that area, in that facility, across, the facilities. Completely silent about asset loss, production loss, business interruption loss. Okay, I understand that maybe this is a facility of strategic importance and they don't want to talk about loss in terms of rupees or dollars or things like that. However, it is very important to find out, as to what extent this investigation or to what depth this investigation should have gone. We have no idea whether it was just the metering skid that was lost, or it was the whole section of the plant that was lost, or it was the whole gas processing facility that was lost. How long it took to, or prediction, how long it would have taken to get them back in service. How much the company lost due to loss of business. Customers, how much they face, how serious interruptions they face, how long they face. Because it is going to domestic customers, industrial customers, transport customers, utility customers. So these are some of the questions that are completely, the report is silent about. So that makes the value of the report, much less than what were the efforts. Let me come to another aspect is that again the team formation and the people, we have no idea what were their backgrounds. Just now Kanu was talking about what were their expertise in doing such investigations. Are they professional investigators? In fact, many a times, many companies, I have seen this, they think that investigators are born investigators. Means just assemble people from east, west, north, south, and they become investigators. Why? Because they are at higher positions. This does not make a good investigator. At least one professional investigators have to be there in any investigation. And when I say professional investigator, that does not mean must hold PhD in investigation. There is no such PhD possible. However, the person should have at least some training, some idea, some background, some experience in such investigations. Then you increase the value of investigation, and not only investigation. Possibly they have done a very good investigation, we don't know. It does not reflect in the report. That report has to be, upvalued. No mention of any safety staff and HSE department, what they said, what they did not do, they did do. Nothing is made, as if the whole system is without an HSE system, without HSE organization. Nothing is mentioned in the report, anything about such. This one mention much details of plant processes, which is rather irrelevant to investigation. In fact, I believe there are some, in such a short report, there are some 3, 4, 5 pages devoted on as to what are the downstream units doing? What are the facilities, how the flows are there, which has nothing to do with the incident, which is only located on the gas processing site. And funnily enough, I possibly to the extent I could study the report, they had not mentioned much about the location, the skid, the 8-inch line, the 6-inch line, the location of the flow element, orifice, all such things. It's not there altogether in the report. It is in that way, it is very difficult to even follow the report because it is not there in the report. No investigation about noise heard by security. The report starts, the first paragraph of the report says that a security person heard a noise. But when you get into the detail, where observations, root causes, you don't find anything about that noise which was heard at the beginning, which was at 2:15 or so in the morning. Now, they got abundantly lucky that possibly there was no explosion. Now, just imagine a hydrocarbon leak from, high pressure, liquid hydrocarbon is coming out from condensate line, and we have seen the video footage that there is so much of leak around. They are abundantly lucky that there was no explosion. But again, that's questionable. If you see, we have seen that, we have shown you initially a newspaper clip. I think it was from Hindustan Times or some other news agency. 3 explosions were heard by the public. They are not talking about within plant. They are talking about public, and public heard 3 loud explosion noises. The whole report is completely silent about that. In fact, as I told, nothing mentioned about the noises heard. And as we know, in any investigation, noise counts. Silent on legal consequences of or non-compliances, etc. In fact, what OISD norms, what petroleum regulation norms, what were violated, nothing, the whole thing is completely silent about the legality or the legal aspect, techno-legal aspect of the situation. Attempted to search leak in vapor cloud. They have talked about that some people, they attempted to search for leak, but I don't know if it was the right decision on their part. Nothing is discussed on these lines. Used many acronyms and full forms are not mentioned anywhere in the report. So unless you are fully familiar with the plant, with the system, with the organization, with various terms and abbreviations they are using, it becomes very difficult for an outside reader to follow the report and make a sense out of it in its full meaning. Now, my small submission is that, yes, I fully appreciate the work done by the committee. They have done their work, to the extent that was, but as I told, their efforts, whatever efforts they have put, it has been devalued by the process that they follow. The whole process, I mean, that, getting into the incident, investigating the incident and making it public, it is in public domain by, PNGRB, is very much appreciated. But again, as I told, that there is much to be done. In fact, this regulatory board has a lot of work to do. I cannot get into further detail, although there is much to be said. Questions are raised. Only 7 incidents since 2016 reported. Now, anyone who has any idea about hydrocarbon industry in India will give it a, will look at it with much doubt. Only 7 incidents since July 2016 until March 2021 or January 2021. It's kind of difficult to accept. How the lessons were learned by ONGC, the whole report does not talk about what lessons that ONGC as a company must learn. And as I told, how the lessons were learned by this Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board or industry as a whole, they have learned. Very difficult to, gauge. Incidents are common, pipeline incidents are common. I have just collected some media report. They may or may not be correct, but at least it gives a flavor that we are much beyond what actually shown on their website, on PNGRB website. So in conclusion, some of the lessons were not learned. Some, or possibly as you look where you are, many of the lessons were not learned. In spite of this effort, accidents keep occurring, lessons are not learned, need of improvement in investigation process and competency of investigators. Again, I don't want to say for a moment that these 3 people who were investigated by any means they were less competent or they were anyway, insufficient, but the report goes against, not in so much in favor. So, lost opportunities for learning. There was an incident that we could have, within the industry, within that country, outside the country, students like us would have learned, but we could not.